Welcome, everybody, back to another episode with Expanding with Erin. Today, I have a very, very special guest, Robin Jelinek, who is the channel for a group of non-physical consciousness known as Athena in Truth. Welcome, Robin. Thank you for being
Thank you, Erin.
How are you today?
Very good. Thank you.
Amazing. So, with this channeling phenomenon, I know so many people have questions and they really want to know, how does one stumble into this journey? Are you born with the gift? Did you always knew that you had it? What would you say was your earliest spiritual experience?
Mhm. Well, looking back on it now, I've often used the analogy that I didn't really know whether I was chasing it or it was chasing me.
Mhm.
As I've gotten older, I was really pursuing a spiritual path, just reading everything that I could, listening to every single channeler that I could. It was like I was just addicted. I couldn't get enough. As a child, I would say there were some attributes that, as I look back on it now, I can kind of recognize, but at the time I didn't know what they were. And it was mostly empathy. It was mostly really feeling what other people were experiencing, to the point where it was uncomfortable, where I didn't always like it and I didn't really know what to do with that. So I think that was very definitely something that was always there from early on. And I actually met my husband now, who is I'm still married to, by the way. We're just having 50 years of knowing each other coming up. And it was at the age of 13, we changed classes and I walked in and I did have a voice in my head that said, "Hey, there's your husband, take a good look at him." And I thought, boy, I'm 13 years old. I don't really know if and I actually told him that, which is really funny because this child kind of looked at me like, I can't imagine that would ever be true. But in fact, it was. We ended up dating all through junior high and high school and ended up getting married and running a business. And I have 2 boys and now 2 grandchildren. So I never really thought much about that. I didn't know where it came from. It wasn't something that happened all the time, but I thought that was kind of strange that came to me and that it actually happened. And then there were other little things like doing things. Like I would say to my then boyfriend, I wanted to learn to play tennis, and no one in my family played tennis, and I had no reason to want to play tennis. And so years later, then when we got in our 40s and we sold our business and we were deciding that we were going to go to Florida for half the season, we started taking all these tennis lessons. And I tried to do it a lot when I was younger, but it was always like these glimpses of something that would be coming in the future that would feel really real to me. And then later, like it would be so many years later that they would actually materialize and happen, that I would kind of forget that even occurred,
So sort of like these, I guess we could call them mini premonitions, if we will, or like glimpses into future versions of yourself, but nothing overwhelming to the point that it sort of like disrupted this natural sort of childhood and growing up experience. Okay.
That's exactly summarizes it, exactly how it was. So that got to be very natural to me. Like these little things would happen. I think, oh, I bet I'm going to be doing that. And, I would kind of, but I didn't really make anything of it or think anything of it. And even now I'm really not sure, because it's quite different than what it's manifested into. And I'm 63 years old now, so this isn't quite what I expected.
Congrats. Amazing. And you look fabulous.
Yeah, thank you. And it actually started, it'll be 2 years in February, and I actually have a book coming out. We started that right away when this occurred. So that'll be coming out. It's called Choose Your Universe. That'll be coming out March 25th or something in that range.
We'll have to definitely give the listeners all the information that they need to connect with. I just feel the frequency of it, so it's going to be really, really powerful.
Yeah. So, then backing up a little bit, I would say about the time when I was 19 or 20, I had the interest. I was reading all the books, the Sylvia Browne, the psychic, watching channelers, just driven in that direction. And I would tell my husband about it and say, I'm busy working right now. We could talk about it in the car, but it wasn't really his thing. He wasn't against it, but he didn't really have the time for it. And so that went on for probably a period of 20 years. And then when I was about 43 years old, my children both went to college. And that was kind of a grieving period for me, because I really enjoyed having children and having them at home. And so I felt really empty nested, even though I was working in our business. And so as I was doing all my reading and studying, I had an experience. I had a Kundalini awakening,
Okay.
which I don't know if the listeners are familiar with what that is, but it's kind of really a profound moment. It's like everything that you've read about, you actually hear the chakras, you see them. There's all types of
Wow.
bodily feelings that occur.
Mhm,
And so I
mhm.
had this big booming experience that kind of, I was like, wow, this really is real. This does happen. And so what's funny about that is, so this happened, and there was like 2 years of upheaval in a way that there was just stuff coming up and out of your body, emotion wise, that you didn't really need to know what it was or why it
Mhm,
was. Maybe
mhm.
it was lifetimes, or even this lifetime, or many
Sure.
past, I don't know. But it wasn't a very pleasant couple of years, I would say, right after
Mm,
that happened. And
okay.
so I just kind of worked through that. I could have had what was called a partial rising, where it kind of veered off, because a
Almost
few
like
years.
a, dark night of the soul, would you say, after
Exactly.
that for
Yeah.
the 3
Hmm.
years? Okay.
Yep. And then a couple of years later, and I can only attribute the smoothing out of it, I had another experience where it came down through the top of my head. It was like something clamped on the noise, and of course the whooshing sound and the heat, and the sound of the spinning. I recognized it from the first time, and that was a few years
Mm,
later. So I
mhm,
could only surmise that it didn't make it all the way up. So it decided to come this way, down the top,
mhm.
to come through. And then it seemed like after that, things that kind of passed. And the way I would describe that, as you brought up the dark night of the soul, it was like a loss of shine to everything. I didn't really enjoy going out to eat. I didn't really enjoy shopping. I just, of course, I loved my husband and my family, but it was like all of the things that used to mean something just kind of lost their luster. And so
Mm,
life got really flat. That's how I would describe it.
mhm.
And so I kind of went through that period, but after that came down through, I kind of got back into enjoying life. And something in me realized that, to be spiritual doesn't mean that we don't enjoy things anymore, that somehow you have to deprive yourself, or you can't have a glass of wine, or you can't
Yes,
swear, or, that you're not
yes.
human anymore. And so this recognition came that you are here to have fun and to enjoy stuff. And it just kind
Mhm.
of opened things back up again for me. And
Okay.
so that was when I was 43. So then now we go another 20 years. And I wouldn't say that there weren't things happening off and on. Like there would be little spiritual experiences, little you know, out of body type things that would occur. The reading and the research just continued.
Sure.
But this Kundalini is a thing. It's a separate consciousness that takes your body over, and so it moves at its own rate. A lot of people want to will things to happen, and you're just not going
It's
to do it. So you might
mhm.
be in this phase where it's really moving, and you're doing all kinds of light language, and you're spinning, and
Yeah.
these things occur, and facial contortions and things, and then it just quits, and then you go
Yeah.
5 years and
And then
nothing
it's just
happens.
done, right.
And that becomes the normal life of a channeler, basically. And so like right now I'm in this phase where stuff's happening again, and you just don't really know why, and after a while you just don't really even care to ask. You just think
Yeah.
it is what it is. And so now, so I'm getting that, when the 20 years went by, something happened. Lots of the light language started. Whenever I sat down to be quiet, it just began, and I didn't know what it was. And nothing was speaking or anything, but there was lots of bodily movements, and lots of talking with your hands. And
Sure.
so this just kind of kept precipitating more and more. And then I actually have a good friend that I've had for over 20 years that is a channeler also. And so I called her up and I said, I'm going to make an appointment with a session with you. And I want to talk about some of these things that are going on with my body.
Uh-huh.
And she's really good, by the way. And she said, well, you have a group of 7 that are trying to communicate. She said they haven't quite figured out how you want to do it. Do you want to do it with words? Do you want to do it with automatic writing? Do you want to just use the light language? They're just kind of like waiting, which I didn't really know that.
Mhm.
So then getting that little bit of that information kind of put the plug in the wall for me. So then I would sit down and the light language would start. And I remember one of the first questions I asked, because it was always kind of problematic for me in my life, is, I was a chubby girl growing up and I got picked on a lot. So you kind of go through these phases of life where I never really felt confident, even though I
Sure.
I haven't been overweight for 50
Yeah,
years.
yeah,
It just
it's
kind
the
of
imprint
stuck
of
with
it.
me as
Mhm,
far as
mhm.
feeling bodily conscious and physically not,
Mm.
good about yourself all the time.
Mhm.
And so I remember, sitting down to meditate, and I posed the question to myself, where is my confidence? When am I going to get it? I mean, I'm 60 whatever years old, I just
Yeah.
want to be free of this feeling. And I just remember my body just sitting up, like I didn't do it. It just sat up. And
Wow.
then the deep breath came in, and that was Athena. And that was the first time she breathed me. That's how I would explain it. And there
Okay.
wasn't talking at that moment. There was just a feeling of a
Mm.
presence.
Okay.
And I kind of felt her looking around the room, even though I had my eyes closed.
Mm.
And so I would say about 2 weeks passed, and we visited my son in Fort Lauderdale. And it was a full moon. It was just a beautiful night. We had an ocean view,
Mhm.
and he was sitting next to me. And I, of course, shared all this. And I'm very fortunate that my husband and my two boys are just
Yeah,
totally
I was
okay
gonna
with all of
ask you
this.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we
Okay.
were sitting on the deck, and I just said to him, I've had these things happening, and this is what my friend told me. And, I had this feeling like somebody breathed me. And then right away, I felt the movement again. And
Mhm.
then he said, well, if something's in there, why don't you come out and talk? And then they did. That's when it happened.
What your husband
And
said?
they were all just,
Oh,
asking all kinds
wow.
of
So your family's sitting
questions.
around you and
Hmm.
Athena's
Hmm.
getting ready to come through for the first time.
Yes, yes. Hmm.
Wow. How special.
Yeah. And so it was not easy. I mean, I remember thinking, do I have enough clothes on? Because I kept sweating and sweating. And, it was really a strain on my vocal cords, on my body. And
Mhm.
then what was really odd about it, I would say it's very fast moving, what has happened to me. So I would say within 2 months, all of that kind of regulated. And,
Mhm. Mhm.
I was able to just figure out how it worked.
Soothe
And in the
into it and
beginning, yeah, in the beginning, when something like this happens to you, you're thinking about it all the time. And in my
mhm.
situation, and I'm not sure if it's the same in yours or other channelers, they're thought provoked. So if I think about them, they're right there. They're trying to
Oh, I mean,
communicate.
all the time.
Yeah.
People always ask me, well, do you turn it off or where does it go? Or people even thought it was funny that even before I stopped working in finance, that they would still be there. I would be doing whatever I was doing, no
Hmm.
matter the setting, and they would just still be there.
Yes, yes. And they'll definitely, I'll get bodily movements, or, I can control it, of course, if I'm with somebody I don't know.
Yeah.
But by
Yeah.
having the thought, like one time I was at a luncheon with some ladies that I play tennis with that don't know anything about what I do. And I happened to have the thought, like, I wonder what they would think. And then right away they were like, oh, why don't we just tell them, And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that right now. But it's just, so what I'm trying to explain is, in the beginning, I felt like my life is over. Are they going to be on me 24/7? Are they going to be like obtrusive, and I have no privacy, and I can't get my laundry done? I can't do anything now.
Mhm.
And then they said, we're thought provoked. Don't think about us and we won't bother you. So that's kind of what now I can go 2, 3 days and actually be normal, not have this going on.
Mhm.
Or if I
Mhm.
happen to think about it, they like to come out and talk.
And I
Mhm.
bet that's so helpful for other individuals out there who are awakening in their own channeling abilities and feeling like, well, who am I anymore? Because, I always hear these beings, and it's thought provoked, if you go on about your day, they won't bother you, or they might pop in. But
Mhm.
we still have that control, because in my experience, what I found is that they want us to live a normal life too, not for us
Yes.
to be
Yeah.
here and feel too weird and too out of place. So it sounds like your channeling is very integrated, such as mine. It's just very integrated.
It is. But I would say for me, I don't find a whole lot out about myself, or about even asking questions for myself, because
Sure.
my consciousness gets fully removed. And so,
Okay.
in order for me to ask a question of them, or something I'm wanting to know for me, I have to come back in and then try to go back out and have them, and then I can't hear it. And it's just kind of and what's really
Sure.
funny is, it's almost like I just don't have any anymore. Like, I used to think I'd have so much to talk about, or so many questions. And it's almost like, it's not that you're doing everything right, believe me, or that you don't have your human hangups. I do. I'm not saying that.
Mhm.
But there's an acceptance of that
Mm.
imperfection,
Mhm.
and it's
Mhm.
okay that I screwed up, or I didn't think the right thing. And I find that that's where your divinity is, in the acceptance of that fact. And
Mhm.
somehow that's
Mhm.
gotten in there, where now I can live with not being perfect. Where before I thought, if I want to do things effectively, I have to be a perfect example or I have to do it right. And that's just not true.
Sure. And I find that when you are working with infinite intelligence, it gets to a point where any question that you could ask, you already know they're going to come with this answer that soothes you on every level of your being. So at some point you don't really have any questions because you are in that total surrender and unconditional acceptance of the present moment and every expression of yourself. So a lot of the times we ask because we want to fix ourselves, but if you recognize that there is no fixing, then it would make sense why the question would sort of dissolve. Now, I'm wanting to ask, do you allow your children and husband and family and friends to speak with Athena whenever they're needing some help?
So what happened the first year, and they've kind of spelled out how things are going to go. They said the first year is primarily going to be working with the family, like getting to know them, helping if there's areas that are needing help or whatever. And so I would say overall, it's been a really positive experience, although there are some things that you go through that are like touching spots in people that are difficult,
Sure.
and because they can be, the way they explain it. And again, I don't know. And this is one thing that's really good that we're doing this, because a lot of channelers don't really talk to other channelers or discuss how this really goes. And so my group in particular will raise the ante based upon the headbutting they come up against. So for example, if somebody is so stuck in their rightness or so not willing to move out of a pattern, they can get really voluminous and loud. And that happened with my kids. And, there were times, where it felt, where I would, after it was over, I would feel kind of bad. But I have to say, some part of them knew the truth, and some part of them, even though it was difficult to go through, appreciated it.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
I'll have to go in and cut that piece out.
It's okay.
So we can just hop back in.
Yeah. So I would say it now it's the kids want their mother. They don't want a channeler all the time. And I would say in the first year, there might have been too much channeler and not enough mother. And now there's more mother and way less channeler. And it's not that they don't believe in it or use it on occasion, but it's not as prevalent as it was to begin with. Let's just say that.
I see, because I was going to ask you how is this, particularly with the children, how has this impacted maybe how they relate to other peers and just life in general? Let's say they wanted to bring home I don't know how old they are, but a boyfriend or girlfriend, and it's like, meet my mom. How is this sort of change the regular family traditional landscape, if we will?
Well, so since this began in my early 20s, I was pretty open with my kids, sharing the things that I read and the studying that I did. So they had a good base and an understanding that this kind of thing existed. So it wasn't anything like shocking to them. And my oldest son is the only one that's married. The younger one isn't married yet. He has a girlfriend. She knows what I do. We haven't particularly done it that much. Now, my daughter-in-law loves it. And she's been into it for years, so it's no problem for her at all. However, a lot of extended family members don't know what I do. It just never come up. So I don't run around telling everybody, hey, this is what I'm doing. I just do it, and I don't really worry so much about the outcome anymore.
Is there ever a feeling, as being the channel, that there's a feeling of secrecy? Let's say you're going to an extended family member's house, and you and your immediate family, they know what you do. Is there a sort of tiptoeing around? Or just because for myself personally, I've experienced that, where it's Thanksgiving, okay, my mom, my dad, my sister, they know, but then other family members, maybe they kind of have an idea, but they don't really understand it, and it's kind of like this tiptoeing, and it just feels weird sometimes. We're just in this weird position. So how do you find yourself navigating those experiences?
Well, I would say, I'll just give you an example of a couple of things I've experienced. I I had some friends, like one friend that I'd had for my whole life. I mean, we worked
Mhm.
together when I was 18 years old, and we've continued our
Wow.
friendship our whole life.
Mhm.
And of course, you're worried that when you have that type of a friendship for that long, that if you don't share it with them and they go online and find it, they're going to think, well, why didn't you share this with me? You know, we've been friends for 40 years, you know? And
Mhm.
but yet you wonder, I knew it wasn't really her thing. I knew that she wasn't really, she knew that I had gone to see a channeler when I was back in my 20s, but
Mhm.
they were not interested in it. It was not something that was part of their interest. And so as this thing unfolded in me and it happened, you start going through some people that you're close to and trying to decide, who should I share it with
Sure.
and who should I not share it with. And then I soon found out that the group is more than happy to tell me who it is okay to share it with. But I didn't know to listen to
Okay.
that right away. So the one friend that I would have just thought it was so weird said, you know what, I've known you for 40 years and I know that you would never tell me anything that's not true. And she said, I totally accept it. And sometimes she'll call me and she'll say, can you get those things in here, whatever they are? And she'll want to use it, but we don't really talk about what she's using. And she's totally
Okay.
embraced it and she's fine with it, you know? And then we
Mhm.
had other friends who we feel we're very close with, who they said, don't tell. But I was afraid that they would go online, or that maybe somehow it would come out and they're close friends. So I told them and it did not go well. It was not like, it just was never brought up again. It was just this
I
really
see.
uncomfortable, weird moment where you knew that they
It
told me not
mhm.
to. I should not have done it, you know?
Wow.
And it's not always about what you think. Like you might think that person's not into it at all. I can't share it.
And you have
But
no idea.
you might be the key that's just opening their door, you know? So you're not the one to
Yes.
decide. So I finally learned, I ask, I say, is this a good person for me to share
I
this with?
love
And they always
that.
say, yes, this is, or no, that would not be a good idea, you know?
Okay.
And I've kind of learned. So have I really run into anybody yet that has seen me that didn't know I was doing it? I haven't. And I try not to think about it because I feel like I know that what you think about, you attract to yourself. So
Uh-huh.
I just la, 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 la on my way and don't think about it. And if it doesn't, I'll just say I have a website that explains everything. And if you're interested, please go on and have a look, you know, but I don't need to be talking about it all the time. I'm not trying to sell anybody on anything or drive it down
Sure.
somebody's throat or anything like
And
that.
sometimes we
Or
just gotta be
yeah,
normal. We don't want to talk about it
yeah,
all the time.
yeah. And I think that's what's good about my relationship I have with my husband. I can very definitely tell him all the woohoo stuff that's going on. And I'm not a woohoo person. I'm just not. I don't know how this is happening to me because I'm
Right.
not an embracer of fairies and a hoopla. It's just not who I am. Yet I'm
Sure.
experiencing some hoopla, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I can tell him all of that, but most of the time he won't bring it up to me. It's not, I have freedom from it when we're together and we're doing things. It's not like a
I
primary
think
thing.
that's important because sometimes people think they have to be in a relationship with someone who's going to be exactly as they are or
Hmm.
doing the same thing as them. But I've found a similar thing in my relationship where it's great to have freedom, where when
Hmm.
I'm doing my thing, I'm fully doing it. And when I'm not, my partner isn't trying to say, hey, let's go off channeling together or something.
Hmm.
It does give me that sense of freedom. So I know a lot of people are interested in that. So that's awesome that you get to
Yeah.
experience as well.
Yeah. And looking back, I don't know what you thought, but I had the interest in the channeling and I was always watching it and thinking it
Oh,
would
I
be
was
so
obsessed.
awesome to do that. And it was so cool to watch. But I have to say, when you're doing it, it's like I don't really find myself any different. I don't think I'm special. I don't think I'm perfect. I don't think
Mhm,
I know
mhm.
everything. I just know that what I know is that everybody's a channeler. They wouldn't be in the body they're in. And that I have somehow allowed another group of consciousnesses to transmit through the body that is me. And that doesn't make me any higher than or greater than anybody else. It's
Of course
just a
not.
thing that's happened. So,
Sure.
um, but what comes with it isn't all uh, bows and whistles. I mean, there's a lot of, like you said, a lot of uncomfortableness. A lot of, some
Definitely.
people think you're crazy, and I think, well, what can I do? I'm the same person, but yet this is occurring and happening, and I can only tell you what's happening. But you know, so that's the
Mhm,
tough part about it.
mhm,
You
mhm.
walk the line between, people thinking you're a stable, sound, normal person, and to someone thinking that you're this crazy, make it up woohoo. I don't know
Sure.
what, I don't know how anyone would flow with that type of,
And
I'm not a public speaker. There's no way I could, you know,
Mm-hmm.
rattle off recordings or do what it is that I do by myself. I'm not that
Exactly,
good.
exactly. And
So,
sometimes I know for me, a huge challenge with accepting that this was going to be my path was that I was also very just obsessed with channeling for a long time, but never associated with myself. I would
mhm,
just binge watch, all these things on
mhm.
YouTube. I never thought it was scary. I just naturally understood how this was possible. But when it to overcome in terms of how other people might perceive you and say you're making this up, or
Mhm.
so I think sometimes it can look cool to people, like, oh, you can just ask these beings anything that you want, but the social dynamics of it and family and just everything, it just comes with it. It's its own little package, right, of things that makes
Mhm.
your experience on earth different. But what my guides also explained to me was that was a part of the experience that I wanted to have, of, well,
Mhm.
that is going to be weird, but how will I navigate it? What will I do? So um yeah, I think it's all just a part of the play.
Mhm. So were you, I just have a question for you out of
Oh, sure.
curiosity. Were you certain of uh, what you would do and what your gifts were right in the beginning, or did it take some time for those to naturally unfold?
I was completely I can't say I was completely unaware. For me, I felt like it was something that I was going to keep for myself. I could hear source in my head. I could hear these beings. But I would just use the information for myself. Well,
Mhm.
why am I struggling with this? Or how can I be more aligned in the moment? So all of this guidance was just pouring out of me. And sometimes I would just allow this guidance to be poured out of me, but no one was there listening. It was just me.
Mhm.
And so as time went on, recognizing that I was here to be a channel, it was really sort of a weird aha type of, it was like, how could I not know that this was going to be the ultimate outcome when you were doing things like that? It's just a weird
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, but yeah, I really thought I was going to keep it to myself. I didn't think I was going to be
Mhm.
channeling for other people. I didn't
Mhm.
even really see it as channeling, to be honest. I just
But
saw,
as far as how you actually broke it down to light language and what you're actually, how you're going to work, how did that unfold for you?
it actually happened through meeting with several other channelers. Like you, I was very into that community, and so I would see different people and them just telling me, hey, you're going to be speaking light language. And
Mhm.
not in a million years did I think. And I would say, no, I don't think that's for me. I remember
Mhm.
being maybe 18. I go to my first psychic medium and they're telling me, oh, you're going to be doing this, or you're a healer. And I just did not see myself in that way. So it's funny that how it all just happened. It really just all
Mhm.
happened. So in working with other galactic channelers, and, they did some light language work on me, it just activated, and
Mhm.
and expanded. So that's
Mhm.
that's how it happened. I still can't believe it some days, but here we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
It's
so I think we're ready to meet Athena.
Mhm.
And so before Athena comes in, can you sort of explain to everybody again who Athena is?
Mhm. Well, I think I think gods and figures that we worship are more about a feeling than really an actual being or physical being.
Sure.
And when I think most channelers, maybe if they look back or they ponder it, that there's nothing in your life that you're not attracting to yourself. And that includes, people talk about you choosing your parents. Well, you didn't really choose them, you attracted them to yourself, same as you're going to attract a mate or anything else. And they use the description of if there were a game with all different size marbles and you start to drop them in and they start to shake down into this
Mm.
universe that we're all a part of, that eventually the right size lands with the right size. And even though it's at a massive uh, size to comprehend. That's basically what's going on. And so what was the question again? Now I'm lost where I was at as they went off into that.
For anyone who's listening who wants a better understanding of who Athena is.
Oh, okay. So yeah. So when I made the call of where's my confidence, what better example of a female inner confidence could come forth other than Athena, the goddess of Athena? And it felt like royalty. It felt like power. It felt like, I'm a woman, but I can be this too. I don't have to be a wallflower. I don't have to be subservient to anyone. And so I felt like in that moment when that breath came into me, that for the first time, I really felt like what power in a female body felt like. Yeah. And so, I was raised in your old style family with a father that worked and a mother that stayed home. And I didn't really like my dad that much. He was kind of loud and not very nice all the time, and to my mom. And so I felt like that was all part of this. And there are times in my life where I felt kind of victimized by it, but now I know that there are no victims, and that I call to myself, and in the life that I lived prior, or the many lives prior to that, based upon the decisions I make and the choices and how I decide in my sovereignty to pick and choose how I'm going to feel about the life experiences I'm having, is what's going to bring to me in my future lives and relationships. So, what's playing out right now has long before occurred, but you have your now moment that you can decide to pick and choose differently than when you didn't realize you had any input. And you can create in your future lives and in the life that you're living, the life that you want to have, instead of being victimized and think, I had a bad parent, or, terrible
Absolutely.
childhood, and then think that somehow you had no part in it. And I finally gotten the realization that, you may be a baby, but you're no baby. So you are an expansive being that comes into an infant's body, but you are fully loaded with your karma. You're fully loaded with all of the life experiences and everything that you have ever gone through.
Important to know. Wow.
Yeah. And so all of that is, in there, and you've got the perfect set of parents, the perfect husband, the perfect children, everything laid out before you to stimulate you in every possible way for what you're already carrying,
Yes.
So
That's
how can you be mad at anybody?
The forgiveness piece for me was a huge part of my spiritual ascension and journey, and just releasing. Sometimes we hold on to so much resentment and anger and frustration for our parents, the world. And when you recognize you have chosen these things to stimulate you into a greater sovereignty within self, you can release it. So I recall you saying that Athena was made up of 7 beings. Is that correct? Would you say?
I would say, but since this has occurred now over a couple of years, there have been others that have been added. It's always by their discretion. I never need to worry about protecting the room or putting anything around me, because they're ever present. So nothing comes through their watch or their approval. I would say that. And I'm comfortable with that. I don't ever feel like I'm out there, something's going to happen that I don't want to have happen or anything like that. And so there's been several more that have added, but that was the initial group that came. And some of them are male, some are female, some have lived lives before, some have not, And what happens is when I'm in a session, even though it is Athena's voice that seems to be dominant, it's mostly her. Sometimes there's one Jeremiah that does the male that I definitely feel more manly when he comes through. Sometimes he will speak, but it's usually when there's a stuck pattern of energy or something that's really needing a push. And so she will generally, it'll be her voice, but dependent upon the energy of the person that they are moving with, the appropriate match kind of comes forward.
I see
what they need. Maybe they need more soothing, maybe they need more punch, maybe they need more, it's kind of reading the energy, and then that's the entity that will come forward.
Very, very helpful. Well, I'm excited to see what energy Athena meets me with, the expressed frequency that comes through for everyone here today. So when you're ready, I'd love to meet.
We are ever ready. We would never not be ready. We are ever present. We are excited to be in your company. We are always listening and advising Robin, as she is having her conversations. And we would tell you that we are so grateful that she has come to the realization that she can now transmit this energy to those that are listening, that you are always the creator of the experiences you're having. And it doesn't matter whether you are an infant 2 days old or you are 100 years old. There's nothing that's coming to you that is not needed, that is not invited, that is not called. This orchestration of this universe that you are a part of is perfect. And there is no one being victimized. You will get the exact parent that you are matched to by every life you have ever lived and by the life you will be living. And you will learn the lessons that you are needing to learn, either in this life or the coming lives. That would be up to you. Those lessons will just keep coming and coming until you finally take ownership of what it is you need to shift energetically in order to get the lives that you're wanting to get. What is it that we can talk to you today about that would be of interest to you?
So, Athena, thank you so much for being here. It is beautiful to co-create in this way. I can feel that we share the same intention for this work, so that is feeling beautiful in my soul. And I want to ask, you're speaking about this self-power and sovereignty and releasing victimization, but there are many souls, and this is something that I get all the time, who are coming from ancestral lineages of pain and suffering, and we would even say discrimination. What would you say to those souls who are looking for alignment with abundance, but perhaps finding it to be difficult based on past realities that they are clinging on to, if we will? How can
You
we
would tell them to forget about it. How do you like that answer? All these people want to go and see psychiatrists. We have nothing against them. Or counselors. We have nothing against them. But as you stir the pot, as you talk about what is and what is because of a reason that you think that it is, you are the regurgitator or the creator of that which you are not wanting in your life. Many, did you know, that go to counseling end up separated? They do not end up benefiting from the exchange because they are so riled up or thinking about and creating the opposite of what they are wanting by these exchanges that they are having, you see. So the idea of just deciding to take ownership, whatever I've got, somehow, some way, by the way that I have chose, because I do choose, I'm in sovereignty. Everybody's here living, but everybody has an opinion of their own. Everybody does. Others can try to make their opinions theirs, but that doesn't mean that that's how it is, you see. So basically what we are saying is, as long as you try to pin this problem onto something or some way or somebody, you're never going to get rid of the problem. You have to just accept that you alone are the source of the problem. You are the one that has lived the lives, made the choices, reacted to the situations emotionally that have brought you to the point or place that you're at. Nobody can do it for you. Nobody can fix it but you. And we know that what you are saying, they have all these issues, they have problems. We've talked about racism. And we will tell you right now, until one loves themselves, until one does not care how another thinks or feels, and it has no bearing upon them, you will not see this disappear from your communities. See? Sure. You have to love yourself. You have to honor yourself. And you have to give no attention whatsoever to these ignorances that do not do same, because you empower them when you do this, you see. You have to put that focus, that gold, that diamond that you have, that creation that you have on what you want. And you have to be that. Look at me, shining in my light, in my love, in my admiration of myself. In spite of you, I care not what you think. I love myself. I admire myself. I admire others. Do you think in hating another that has hated you, that you somehow are going to rise in that behavior? Or have you become likened to them? You see.
Sure. Thank you. And so when it comes to every single one of us being the creator of our own reality, how can we no longer see source, God, as being something that is outside of us and something that lives within us? And that is why we do hold that power to create our reality, because I see so many people, they can't believe that amazing things or beautiful things can happen to them because they think source is either saying, yes, you're worthy, or no, you're not. How do we
Yes.
overcome that as humans?
You overcome it by knowing that you're never going to do it as the human. The human is a tool. We call it a tool. It's got some benefits. Yes. It can eat, it can exercise, it has children. Yes. We could go on the list. We're giving you some ideas. Yeah. But what we really want you to understand is that tool is being governed by a higher source, by a greater source from all that is. And once you really accept this, this is what Robin was talking about when she realized that her human still made mistakes. Her human still thought in ways or did things sometimes that perhaps aren't perfect, you see. And she didn't attach herself. She decided to separate. There's one and one. There is you as the human, and there's you as the grander part of you. So there's two of you see. And she has decided just to love the human for the experiences, just to accept it and know that it is an experiencer. That's what you came here to do. You didn't come here to do it perfect and not make any mistakes. Nobody asked you to do that. We said, come forth and create, experience. That's what you're doing, you see. But as you judge the human and as you demean it in your judgment, you become separated from that source in that low vibratory level that you are holding yourself separate in. Your source cannot reach you. So now you're relying on your human. Human can't do it. The human can't stop thinking negatively. It can't stop thinking it's something wrong with it. It can't achieve what it wants to achieve. But the minute you love the human for what it is doing, for being the experiencer that it is, it rises enough that it can reach its source. And it is the source that merges with the human that causes the conduct and the manifestations and all the creations that you are wanting to receive. They're already here. It's already received it in all that is. The minute you as a human had the experience, that's why you came. They and all that is, or we and all that is, have expanded to the greater degree of what you have experienced. We got the message. We got that letter long ago. But you keep sending it in your negativity over and over and over again. And there is a dead address at the end of that negativity because the low vibratory level that you are stuck in does not receive mail from all that is. You see.
Amazing, 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 amazing. I'm blown away by the dead address. I think that is phenomenal. It's like a package that's never going to reach its destination, the low frequency, so to speak. So can you speak about the quantum field? This is a topic that has presented itself within our spiritual communities as beings are ascending into becoming one with their quantum selves. What is it that we should know about navigating the quantum field of all that is to create our most optimal reality?
We believe that to some degree, the question you are asking is a little bit about levels of reality. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. What is a level of reality? It is an expansion of your consciousness. That's all it is, you see. Humans think they're going to pack up their bags and move somewhere different than where they are. That's not what's going to happen, you see. You perceive differently and therefore believe differently and therefore receive differently. That's what happens as your consciousness expands. And it does this through the love of self, through the rise of your belief that when you ask for something, you are a God and it will be given to you the moment that you ask. You don't have to sit around and wonder why, where it is, and when it's coming. We just did a podcast this morning talking about this topic. And we said, if you're going to do a podcast and you're going to name it, when you write these long titles, they don't get found. There's no key word. There's no one big word that people are searching for that links you up with what it is they are looking for. And that's the universe that's you. Well, there's a universe out there that's all that is too. And you're sending a lot of mixed messages. I want this because of blah, 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 blah. Every emotion you can ever imagine is coming at us from you. Why don't you just say, I want to feel satisfied, and this is what would make me feel satisfied? But then what happens is you send out this mixed signal, this mixed bag of mess sometimes, and then if there's a lag time, what do they really want? Do they want to feel happy? Do they want to feel sad? Do they want more money? Do they want a best spouse? Do they want, what is it? You see, they don't really know themselves sometimes. How can they expect all it is to know? We want you to be precise. Get a tag word on what it is that you're wanting and use it.
Okay.
Call out to all that is. I want this thing because it would make me feel this way. Why do you think you want it? You want to feel. That's why you're here. You want to feel in a certain way. That's why you're calling for everything that you are calling for. You're not doing it for the fun of it, you see. We would tell you, be more precise. And you will quicken your manifestation, and you will speed the response from all that is. When you state the real term on what it is you want. Now, we know we have veered off a little bit from this quantum field that you are talking about. But as you reach one level, you will have the potentiality to reach another level. And as you reach another level, you will have the potentiality to reach another level. And so it will go. This consciousness is never ending, all expanding. And there's no time limit. There's nobody left behind. There's nobody higher than, better than. It just is this very natural unfolding. When you became a teenager, all of a sudden you became capable of being interested in the opposite sex, of having children. You went through this puberty. Did you do something? Did something happen that you were notified immediately that this change had occurred? It did not. It was a very natural, hear this, unfolding. And this is how the rise of consciousness happens. One day you turn around and you think, how did that happen? Very naturally. That's how it'll happen.
So how I'm seeing this is when we master the basics of the reality that we're in and we get clear in the signals that we are transmuting, naturally, each and every one of us, and also on a collective level, will raise our vibrational frequencies to be able to navigate this quantum field at a higher capacity. But we have to start with where we are, and it can be as simple as getting clear in your frequency so that all that is can communicate back to you what it is that you are asking for.
You are absolutely correct.
Amazing.
And we wouldn't change a word of what you had just said.
Okay. I want to shift into galactic contact, and with that on the forefront for humanity, how can individuals see this from a higher perspective or lens, not seeing it through fear, but seeing it through the eyes of source of what it means to have galactic beings, or what we call ETs, start to more openly communicate with our civilization?
Yes, this will be an inclusive thing as your consciousness expands. Fear, as you know, primarily resides in the 3D or lower levels of consciousness. As you have these experiences, as Robin has had, as you have had, as many are going to have, we would tell you, because collectively consciousness is rising. More and more people are becoming aware that they are the creators of the experience they are having. They are starting to put together that the way that they think and the way that they feel has a direct effect on the lives that they're living. So they're starting to apply the techniques and the wisdom and the knowledge that they are gaining from those that have opened to it. Let's use that term. Yes. So as the collective consciousness starts to reach a tipping point, which it now has, by the way, that is what is coming, then it'll just automatically begin to fall or begin to go the direction. Let's use that term, where expansion will be a given. Does this mean that only those that are doing the right thing will expand? It does not. When you are in the presence of an expanded being, guess what? You're expanded. This is a gift. Do you think that your God, or what you call God, would single out or decide that some are worthy and some are not? Would not, you see. And so as you are surrounded by this consciousness, as you are surrounded and engulfed by these beings that are opening and expanding, they're going to bring you right in, right along with them. Nobody's getting thrown off or left behind. It could be a rough ride if you decide that you do not want to come along with it and you want to stay in the old paradigm. It's not going to work very well for you. But let me tell you something. When you start seeing the good stuff, when you start seeing people getting the lives that they want to get, creating for themselves and understanding how it's done, everybody's going to want to jump on, you see.
Yes. So ultimately, we should see these beings as reflections of ourselves who are connected to the same source of all that is, whom are simply here to help us expand into where they have already gone within their consciousness.
Once again, you are absolutely correct.
Beautiful. I love it. And so, can we talk about, let's talk about money. This is something that I've been called to help people shift their vibrational frequencies around, because it can be quite the topic that is challenging for the human mind. How would you all approach money in the human reality?
Money is energy. If you put a lot of energy into a relationship, you're going to have a good one. You care about it, you nurture it, you take care of it, keep it well, appreciate it, use it for a good purpose. It's going to work pretty well for you, you see. There are many people, we would tell you, that have accumulated great amounts of wealth and have lost it. And why is that? They start to throw money around as though it doesn't matter. They stop thinking about what they are spending and appreciating it. They start taking it for granted. This is why the money flow goes back and forth and up and down, you see. So we would tell you that if you are fortunate, you have a large sum of money, don't forget to tend to it, love it, appreciate it, be grateful for it, use it for good use, for good causes, and it will grow and grow and grow, you see. But if you start to get sloppy and not tend to it and throw it around as though it doesn't matter, order all kinds of things and leave them lie in your house and not use them, your money will start to evaporate, you see. It's like a relationship that you have, only you're having it with money. You have to nurture it. Same way.
I see. And so for those who are upset that money is a part of the experience, and we could say, we don't want to pay taxes, it's not fair, and the government's taking all of our money. And, you know, what does Athena have to say about?
If you believed you were the creator that you were, you wouldn't worry a bit about paying your taxes. You would not worry about your electric bill going up. You would not worry about handing money to someone who needed it. It would be your pleasure, because you would know that you would simply go and get more, and how to get more. You would have the understanding of the creator that you are, you see. And this requires you to throw out the old beliefs, the old garbage that you've been carrying around with you, that's been passed on through your lineage or lives prior. We're not saying it's all yours. It could come from many different areas, not just necessarily yours. But as we told you before, get rid of it. You can simply notice, I have this fear around money. I have this angst or tightness that I don't want to spend it, that I don't want to share it. You notice it. And then you go to all that is. You know what we do? We tell our clients, get yourself something from your high self to represent itself. What do we mean by that? We told Robin, ask your high self for a symbol of itself, so you have something to hold on to. She did it. A rose quartz stone came up, a large one, fist size. She got it, you see. And now she has a talk with us here in form, you see. Because a human, unfortunately, doesn't like to just talk with nobody listening or nobody to talk to. It's hard to believe that. So we transfer ourselves into an object that you now hold. And you go to that rock, we'll use that example, and you tell it, I've got some fears around money. I don't like to spend it with fear I can't get more of it. And the rock says, how does that make you feel? Wacky. And so the rock says, Would you like me to transmute that energy for you? Absolutely, the human says. This is what you use the source for, you see. You are never going to do it. The source is the transmuter of energy. But you have to know how you feel. And you have to ask, what is it that you're calling for? I want to be free. I want to spend. I want to help people. I want to be generous. I want to be kind. Well, what is the feeling when you are not that way? The source says. And you tell it, and it says, let me fix that for you. Let me transmute that. How is this happening? Well, it's called belief. And why is it so important to believe? Because you are the creator of your experience, and you cannot create when you don't believe in something. How are we going to get you to understand? We're not making this up. We're not saying that all it is doesn't exist. But if you don't believe it exists, it doesn't work for you then. In order for it to work for you, you have to give it the power that it deserves. And that is coming from your belief in it. If you don't believe that you can become a doctor or a channeler or whatever it is that you have believed about yourself and become, you would never have achieved it. All that is no different. You have to believe in order to get what you're calling for.
I see. So source, all that is always there to listen to us and help us transmute or release that which is no longer in resonance with the new vibration we are asking for in our lives.
You're good. Absolutely. We like the idea of using something. And also this is a trust exercise, because right away when you ask the high self to give you an object, boom, it's going to come.
Okay.
And this is what you honor. You go out and get it then. This is part of the building process, the trust that you have. And now you have us in form, or what you would call your source in form. You're hanging on to it. You're talking to it. Robin's got the greatest relationship with this rock that you can ever imagine. It's on her chest, in her hand, every night, talking to her. See?
So
it makes you remember to do it. It makes you hang on to it.
I want to be a little lazy here. And I want to ask you all an object in my home that I can use to infuse source with.
Are you asking us to read your mind?
I'm asking, so I think I know what it is, but yeah, I guess we could say that. I think I know what it is, but I want to hear from you all because I'm being a bit lazy right now.
We are going to share a story with you that you will find funny. Yes?
Okay.
When Robin first began her journey in channeling, she didn't know what she could do or what she couldn't do. And we would tell you right out flat, we are not psychic, nor are we touting that we are, you see. We had a lady call that wanted us to find her purse, of all things, you see. And we told her, we would be happy to send your money back if it is your purse you are looking for. We are here for the betterment of people's life, yes? We are here for energetic transformation through light language and codes that we use. We are here to assist a human of moving from stuck patterns that are preventing them from having the lives that they want to live. But we are no way here to ever remove their power or to replace their power with that which they think we have, you see. Now, if it were Robin's desire to really achieve that level of psychic ability, she could do it because she managed to achieve us, did she not? Yes. But at present time, this is not her desire, and it is not what we are, that we do, yes? So what we would tell you that for us to give you the item, we know that you are asking us in a proving sort of way, yes? But we really want humans to do this to prove to themselves what it is that comes to them that they now choose as the object that represents all that is, you see.
Sure. And so what I'm feeling into now is why this has played out perfectly is that a part of our reunion with source is first trusting ourselves because we are source. And if we always think that the answer has to come from a representation outside of ourselves, then how can we ever reunite with source. We have to know that we are it. So
Yes,
thank you for that lesson in this moment.
yes, yes.
Amazing.
We are never here. We would say, yes, in sessions we have had people who are living, who have come through and spoken to those that are in exchanges with them that are having problems. Let's use that term. But it is not something that we command. If we are talking about someone fondly and they so choose to come forward, they do. But we do not tout that we are the speakers to the dead or the transmitters to those consciousness, those that are living. However, it does happen from time to time, but it is not by our command. It is by their choosing, their recognition that there is a portal open that they may now use. But not all choose it.
And what does Athena have to say about this reawakening of the divine feminine consciousness on planet Earth? And is this a part of your coming through in beginning stages with Robin as a feminine consciousness?
During this time in your world, you have gone through many phases. The first desire of women was to be equal to a man. Let's use that term. But then when they got that, they weren't that happy with it. They liked the door open, the gestures that a man makes. And they realized that that wasn't quite exactly what they had in mind or what they had wanted, yes? But what is coming now in the divinity that you are speaking about is a woman being a woman, but being in her power, being coupled together with both the feminine and the masculine, and not feeling as though one is higher than or better than the other. They are equal, you see. And this is what you are experiencing more in your world. You went through the phase, Robin is searching for the word for us. Is it the we too or you too or whatever
Me
it is?
too.
Yes. Me too, yes. Where there was this rebellion that went on. But we are here again to say that, is it the rebellion? Or was it just a decision to be that which you want to be that which you want to see in the world? It's not the rebellion. So many people think it's the war against this or the war against that. And all you have are haters hating haters. This is not going to accomplish what it is you are wanting to accomplish, you see. So we feel like in this period of time that you are in now, that we are coming into this balancing point or this recognition of that fact, that men have their divinity, their differences, women have theirs and their differences, but they are equal in many areas. And this is what is occurring now on the plane that you are about to see coming into fruition.
Okay. And so we, even if we have felt suppressed and that suppression manifests itself in the form of what we saw with like a Me Too movement, where you get this uproar and this outrage, even within that uproar and outrage, if we are in a frequency of hate, then we cannot be a vibrational match to the change and the love that we would like to experience.
All that is, when it receives these massive charges of energy, of hate, of disarray, it expands those. It because it is in the high vibratory level of love, everything is lifted. So you have released this charge of energy. You have done your work in your hate. We're not saying stop doing it, because we are transmuting the energy, and you need to align to it. Now you need to know that the gift is there waiting for you. You can let go of what produced it. And now you can align to what has become of that, you see. And that's what we would say even about your Black Lives Matter, about your different sexualities. You've seen it especially in the different sexuality communities. What really happened? They decided to love themselves. They decided not to give a hoot in hell what someone thought of them. They just decided to live their lives, adopt their children, be the grandparents that they are. And everyone accepted it automatically. It just happened.
Reflection.
And what did they do? They aligned to what they created in the stampedes that they had prior to it coming.
I see. So you're saying that if we look at all of these different communities, whether it's based on race, religion, gender, uh, sexual preference, it's you're always seeing the reflection and the mirror for what you are believing about yourself and within yourself. And so the first step is, how do I fully love me, even if my other selves cannot yet fully love me, but then the reflection will change.
Yes. And how do you love yourself? I am an experiencer. I have a feeling. I am not the feeling. I am the experiencer.
Mm-hmm.
And you love the experiencer. And as you do this, it will rise. And then the connection to all that is becomes available to you.
Amazing. And so, Athena, if you had one last thing you could share with our human civilization during this time of now, what would that be?
It would be to relax, have more fun, be more joyful. Stop thinking you need to fix something or change something or do something.
Mm-hmm.
Stop doing a practice that you would prefer not to do. Do what you're naturally drawn to. If you're drawn to do something, we say, cheerio, do it. You're drawn to it. It's for you. But don't do it because someone has told you that you have to do it, or it's the right thing to do to get to where it is you want to get. You're going to get to where you want to get by following your own payoff of joy. That's how you're going to get there. Not by being guilted or shamed or coerced into something that you would prefer not to be doing. We had a person one time in a session tell us that he had a session with a channeler that made him do, and she's well known, we're not going to put her name out, we're just going to say that. And she told him he had to make this terrible sound every morning for 10 minutes long. We said, well, how do you like doing it? He said, I hate it. And we said, well, why are you doing it? Well, because she told me to. And we said, well, what benefit is it reaping you? Nothing. Irritation, aggravation. I said, that's your response from all that is, that you are moving in a direction that is away from what you were wanting.
Sure, sure.
So this is our biggest advice to humans. You've got an intricate guidance system within you. And when the time is appropriate that the awakening for you will come, it will come. And all you need to do is follow the little urges, the little nudges, the little breadcrumbs that are thrown down on the trail before you. You don't need to compare yourself. You don't need to worry about what anybody else is doing, when yours is coming, or whether you're doing it right. Just live a life of joy, happiness. Enjoy this beautiful plane that you are a part of. That's why you're here. Let the experiencer experience, and let the source love the experiencer for it.
Thank you.
Good day.
Wow. That was phenomenal. Just the intelligence and the ability to sort of go around, but come right back to the intention of the question was quite enjoyable for me. And are you present for that entire transmission, or are you sort of not there?
I'm sort of not, because if I would start thinking about it, I can't let myself get in there at all, because the flow is steady. You know, you just, the way I described it one time is if you were out to dinner with someone that you didn't know very well and you were having a conversation, and all of a sudden behind you, you heard somebody start saying your name, and you think, kind of want to listen to what's going on back there, but I don't really know this person in front of me very well, and I'm trying to pay attention here too.
I see.
So that honing ability kind of got where I can really let that go, where I hear words and a voice, but not content, really.
I see. I see. So you have pretty much no clue what we just spoke about.
No, oftentimes if I want to know something, I'll listen back to it if it's an exchange like we're having. But in a session, I just delete them and I'm done afterwards, and I never really remember much of any of it.
Very cool. So you don't have an attachment to it. You just sort of put it out there and trust that what was said was needed in that moment.
Yep. Okay. And I don't really worry about it. And, you know, I just let it do what it does.
Well, thank you so much, Robin, for allowing us to experience this gift speak with Athena and all of the wisdom that was shared, and for you just being a conduit and a vessel for such clarity to come through from all that is. And so, how can people work with you?
Mhm.
Are you doing one-on-one sessions with individuals? Do you do any other type of work with people, or is it just mainly channeling Athena?
Yes, I do sessions with people, and I have a website. It's called athenaintruth.com. And I have a regular podcast under that same name that goes out several times a week, and a YouTube once a week, also under Athena in Truth. And I have had people who do blocks of sessions where we kind of dive into things. So I wouldn't say I've necessarily titled them as specific things. We usually kind of just start and get to know each other, and it kind of naturally unfolds. I am working on, my sister works with me. I think you maybe
Yes,
had some
yes.
correspondence with her. And we are developing a course that's going to be coming out after the book that kind of goes along with the teachings that are in the book. So we will be doing
Okay.
that probably April or May coming up this year. And that will be on the website too.
All right, sounds great. I'm definitely going to leave links for your website, the sessions, and your YouTube and podcast. So thank
Yep.
you so much for hanging out with us, and I will see you guys next week with another episode.
All
Thanks so
right.
much, Robin. Bye bye.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
You as well.